Guterres, UN risks financial collapse. Zelensky invites Putin to Kyiv for talks. Guterres warns UN could run out of cash by July. Russia halts strikes on Kyiv until Sunday at Trump's request. Trump says US will have very substantial response if Canada enacts trade deal with China. The UN faces chronic budget problems because some member states do not pay their mandatory contributions in full, while others do not pay on time, forcing it into hiring freezes and cutbacks. Google News link for all latest news. Follow the Daily Star's Google News channel. Either all member states honor their obligations to pay in full and on time, or member states must fundamentally overhaul our financial rules to prevent an imminent financial collapse, Secretary General Guterres wrote in a letter. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has, in recent months, reduced its funding to some UN agencies and has rejected or delayed some mandatory contributions. Trump has often questioned the UN's relevance and attacked its priorities. The organization's top decision-making body, the Security Council, is paralyzed because of tensions between the United States, Russia, and China, all three of which are permanent veto-wielding members. Trump also launched his Board of Peace this month, which critics say is intended to become a rival to the UN. Although more than 150 member states have paid their dues, the UN ended 2025 with $1.6 billion in unpaid contributions, more than double the amount for 2024. The UN is also facing a related problem. It must reimburse member states for unspent funds, Farhan Haq, one of the Guterres spokespeople, said during a press briefing. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has publicly invited Russian President Vladimir Putin to meet in Kyiv for peace talks, saying he is open to any format, but refuses to travel to Moscow or Belarus. Speaking to reporters, Zelensky said it would be impossible for him to hold talks in Moscow because Russia is the aggressor in the war, while Belarus has supported Russian actions. He added that Putin is welcome to come to Kyiv if he dares. The Kremlin confirmed it had previously invited Zelensky to Moscow but had not received a response. Recent negotiations between the two sides were held in Abu Dhabi, with another round of US-mediated talks expected soon. However, Zelensky warned the schedule could change due to rising tensions between the United States and Iran, stressing that all key participants must be present. The United Nations is warning of a serious financial crisis. Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the organization could run out of money by July unless member countries pay what they owe. The UN has long struggled with budget problems, as some nations fail to pay their required contributions in full or on time. This has already forced the organization to freeze hiring and reduce spending. In a letter, Guterres stressed that member states must meet their financial obligations, or the UN will need major reforms to avoid what he called an imminent financial collapse. The situation has been worsened by recent funding cuts from the United States under President Donald Trump, who has questioned the UN's value and priorities. Meanwhile, the Security Council remains largely ineffective due to ongoing tensions between the United States, Russia, and China, all permanent members with veto power. Russia has agreed to a request from U.S. President Donald Trump to pause airstrikes on Kyiv until February 1st. As severe winter conditions threaten civilians. Ukraine says it is willing to respond in kind, raising cautious hopes for diplomacy to end the war. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky clarified that no formal ceasefire exists. He warned that Russia appears to have shifted its attacks toward Ukraine's logistics network, targeting roads and railways in recent days. The Kremlin confirmed that President Vladimir Putin accepted Trump's request to help create what it called favorable conditions for peace negotiations. Recent Russian strikes on Kyiv's energy infrastructure have left hundreds of thousands without heating, with temperatures falling below -15 degrees Celsius. Zelensky described Ukraine's response, including a halt on attacks against Russian oil refineries, as an opportunity rather than a binding agreement. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that the United States will take strong action if Canada moves forward with a trade agreement with China. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One on Saturday, Trump said the U.S. would respond in a quote for quote for quote. He added that Washington does not want China gaining greater influence over Canada and claimed such a deal could allow China to quote take over the country. Last week, Trump escalated the warning, stating he would impose 100% tariffs on Canadian goods if the trade agreement is finalized.